I feel very strongly about color.
And that makes two of us, my friend.
Do you know what the primary colors are? I will even make it multiple choice for you. Take your time.
I know that one. I know that one. That's C.
If you picked C, you were lied to as a child.
Wow, well, that's new. I can't wait for her to tell me why those are not primary colors.
To be fair, this is a little bit of a trick question because they're kind of all primary colors to a degree.
Are you saying this question makes no sense to begin with?
From a very young age, we are told that blue, yellow, and red are the primary colors, and that you can mix those colors together to make any other colors. All of these are lies. Let's discuss why. Primary colors. Any group of colors from which all other colors can be obtained by mixing. If you can manage to get any of these colors from these colors, you are a freaking magician, my friend.
So, I'm a magician if I can use yellow and blue to make a blue shade that is made out of yellow and blue? I wouldn't call that a magician. I mean, everyone with hands and a blue and yellow paint can do it. She's probably gonna make some kind of a experiment to demonstrate that you can't do it, or, that you can't do it. Oh wait, spoiler. She won't!
The real primary and secondary colors are red, blue, green, cyan, magenta, and yellow, depending on whether or not you're talking about additive or subtractive color.
Okay, alright, okay. Talking about additive and subtractive colors, nice. She's gonna address the green here though, right? Spoiler again, she's not! Don't worry though, I will. So we have green there as a primary color. That's absolutely untrue. Green is a secondary color regardless of whether we're talking about additive or subtractive color, and it is made using any shade of blue and any shade of yellow. She even proves that herself in her video later on. You also can't make yellow if you use blue, red, and green. Why didn't this make her wonder about whether her own theory makes sense? Well, that's because she doesn't know the difference between the way color forms in our eyes and the way it is created in paint. She read it somewhere in a scientific article that red, green, and blue are additive primary colors of light and just applied it to paint. I hate to break it to you, Echo, but you don't paint with light. I mean, maybe you do, maybe you're the magician here, but the rest of the world paints with paint, the material color rather than the abstract one. When you use actual blue paint, and I mean any shade of blue, and mix it with any shade of yellow, you'll always get green. Green is not primary. Congratulations! You just proved you don't know the basic of color mixing. Oh, and
Depending on whether or not you're talking about additive or subtractive color, but we're not going to get into that now.
what do you mean we're not gonna get into it now? You can't just say things and have me just believe in them without explaining. You have a huge following, and not everyone watching you is gonna be brainless child that doesn't question you when you try telling them their whole life was a lie. The thing you skipped here and that you don't bother to explain for the rest of the video is literally the main thing I'm going to use to prove your theory wrong. So you should have done more research, my friend.
Those 6 colors are so important that it makes me angry that we don't teach children about those 6 colors.
Oh, that evil, angry smile. What is wrong with you? It's just color, and it's not like you gave those kids a single correct information here. You don't even know what cyan and magenta are. You told them green is primary even though it doesn't fit the definition you showed them, and even though you demonstrated them that it's not primary. What are you so angry about?
We scientifically know how color works now.
True, we do. But you're once again talking about color as in light. People used to believe there were blue, red, and yellow color recipients in our eye, and recent studies give us some more specific detail on that, showing us it's not that simple and giving us a new set of primary colors. But when it comes to color in paint, are you saying people in the Renaissance didn't actually know how to mix color? How the hell did they make all this stuff then? Just randomly guessing? That's honestly offensive because those guys were real masters. They knew perfectly well what they were doing. They would never let themselves not know what green is. just saying.
We teach children a system of color that is founded on misinformation that has been handed down for hundreds of years. We scientifically know how color works now. We don't have to continue using this color model.
Today there are a few more pigments than there were 500 years ago, but as for the pigments and techniques they had then, they knew everything about them, including the color theory.
So when we are children and our teachers bust out those fancy 3 colors of paint and they tell you that you can mix those colors together to make any other color, which is a lie, they are teaching you a form of subtractive color.
You said a minute ago that it was additive, and you didn't even mention yellow. You said those were green, blue, and red. Now you're saying it's yellow, blue, and red, and that those are the subtractive colors. This proves to me that you have no idea what any of that means. The fact that you're trying to prove that you can't make cyan and magenta using these colors, even though you yourself said those were primary colors as well, it's just ridiculous. Are they? Or are they not primary colors? It wouldn't even fit the definition of primary color that you provided us with if it couldn't make cyan and magenta. Do they or do they not make any other color? Are these subtractive or additive colors? Is it green or is it yellow in there?
In this system, the secondary colors are blue, red, and green. 2 of the colors that they tell us are primary colors you can make by mixing paints.
Alright, it's time to explain what additive and subtractive colors are since we know she won't do it. The true primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. By adding one of these colors to another, you get a third color. This is why they are called additive primary colors. By adding different amounts of each color, you get different shades of different colors. So if you add a full yellow to a full blue, which means the same amount, you'll always get green. The more yellow you add, the more vivid and bright the green will be. The more blue you add, the deeper and darker the green tone will be. However, if you add less than half of the amount of yellow into the blue, and we'll talk about this in more detail later in the video, you'll get colors like cyan or turquoise that don't have enough yellow in blue to become green and are still in the blue spectrum but very yellowish. These colors are shades of blue, made by mixing blue and yellow in a certain amount. If you add a full blue to a full red, you'll get violet. The more red you add, the more purplish the color will be. And if you add less than half blue into a full red, you will get shades of magenta, which is a shade of red that has blue in it but doesn't have enough blue to become violet. What we're looking at here is a color wheel that shows us primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. I'll explain what a color wheel is and why it exists later in the video, but right now you can see that magenta and cyan are tertiary colors on the wheel here, and that they're set as shades of blue and red.
Let's have an example. Okay, welcome to Echo's color theory class. So over here is the red, blue, and yellow that we're told are the primary colors, and then over here we have the yellow, magenta, and cyan, which Arteza has so lovingly called sky blue. So because we're taught the wrong primary colors, most people would say that you mix blue and yellow to make green. But what people don't realize is that because you're mixing a primary and secondary color, you're actually getting a desaturated form of green, when you could be getting a much more vivid green by mixing 2 primary colors.
The green that she got there is a quaternary green, not a secondary color. There is no such thing as a less saturated color in color mixing as long as you don't use white and black. These are all just different shades. Some have more blue, some have more yellow. It's up to you which one you're gonna use.
Contrary to popular belief, although yellow and blue make a green, it's actually yellow and cyan that make green.
The fact that she tries to tell you one green is better than the other by showing you that the green you get from cyan is more vivid than the other one proves to me that she doesn't know what cyan is and how colors are mixed. I'll repeat it once again. The more yellow you add into the blue, the more vivid or bright the color will be. Since cyan is a tertiary color, which means it's not an authentic blue because it already has some yellow in it, the green made with cyan will have more yellow in it than an authentic blue plus yellow would give. If you want to make a more vivid green, using an authentic shade of blue that has no other color mixed in it, just add more yellow. She proved nothing with this other than the fact that she has no idea what she's talking about. Alright then, so now that we know what additive primary colors are, that they make other colors by adding one primary color to another color, what are those infamous subtractive primary colors that everyone is talking about? We all know how to add color to a color, but how do you subtract color from another color? Before I get into that, I want to play a few more clips from her video. In order to understand how you subtract color, we need to know what cyan and magenta are and what a color wheel is.
People think that cyan and blue are the same color when they are vastly different hues. It's like saying that red and magenta are the same color, or yellow and green.
No, no one says that. I'm sure that not one person who sees color says that. Hey you! If these two colors look the same to you, get your eyes checked. What I believe people are saying here is that cyan is a shade of blue, and that is nothing but true. Cyan is a different color that falls under the shades of blue because it has 2/3 or more of blue color in it. It is a new color, but in a blue category. Therefore, it is not an authentic blue. Why do you even compare blue and cyan? It's like saying chicken is not a bird. It is a bird, as in a type of bird. Okay, so which one of these shades is an authentic blue? Which one of these has no other color in it? My answer to that question would be hiding in pigments. I know she doesn't know anything about pigments, and that is fine. You don't have to know much. But in this case, it comes useful that I had to know over 50 damn pigments with all their characteristics, including how they react with different chemicals, how they perform in different conditions, how you make those pigments, and how you make different types of paint using those pigments. Yes, we made actual paint in our class. Who needs that? Whew, okay, we'll take a quick look at blue and red pigments in order to determine what shades of red and blue are the most authentic shades. Why pigments? Because we use pigments to make paint. Some colors are made using a certain pigment, while other colors are made by mixing a pigment with another pigment. Cyan is not a pigment itself. It is a blue that you get by mixing a blue pigment with a yellow pigment, and therefore it is not authentic. I'd say the best pigment to use to get cyan is Prussian blue. Cyan even got its name from a chemical component of Prussian blue. So there's that. However, although Prussian blue is a very important blue pigment and I would always recommend having it in your starter pack, let's say you only have money to buy one blue. Well, the one that you'll find you use the most is definitely ultramarine. Echo used it in her video herself as the ultimate blue. It is a stunning color made out of this beautiful stone called lapis lazuli. Obviously, actual ultramarine made out of this stone is too expensive, which is why synthetic ultramarine pigment was made, and that is the one we use today. It is definitely the most common blue pigment you'll find out there. In some of its versions, it's more obvious that it has a very slight reddish tone in it, but I believe it is still the most authentic blue pigment there is. There's also indigo. It's another blue pigment used quite often as a color closest to the color wheel blue, but it all comes down to ultramarine in the end. Cobalt blue is, I would say, the second most used blue pigment in painting, and you'll often find it in your starter packs as well. There are other blue pigments, but you'll find that those are not at all as often used as these three are, excluding indigo we just mentioned. Ultramarine, cobalt blue, and Persian blue are the most common blue pigments used in painting. So let's say the ultimate blue shade out of all of these three is ultramarine for these reasons. It is a pigment itself, and therefore it is an authentic color that doesn't need anything mixed into it in order to exist. It has the least amount of another color out of any other blue pigment. It is the most common blue pigment used in art and is also one of the oldest pigments ever found. Ultimate blue shade, checked. So which one is the ultimate red? This is where it gets fun because magenta, unlike cyan, is often made out of a single pigment, although no pigment is called magenta. The reason I say it gets fun is because two of the most common pigments in art are actually pigments used to make magenta, even though our friend Echo here talks about magenta as if something nobody has never heard about and nobody uses. Magenta is a very common red color often used in starter packs. Every starter pack of mine consists of magenta. However, it is not a color I would use as primary red because of the heavy blue tint it has. Carmine Lake is one of those pigments, and it is highly probable that you're using that pigment right now as your primary red or as your magenta color. What you should know about this pigment is that it's not vegan, as it is made by smashing scale insects such as cochineal scale. It has many names, so check your reds and look for crimson red, cochineal red, Carmine Lake, or natural red. All of these are names of the same pigment. This pigment often has an obvious blue tint to it, so I wouldn't call it an authentic color, even though it is very likely that you are already using it as a primary color in your blue, yellow, red starter pack. It is also not the best quality pigment as it reacts poorly to the light, and since it's not vegan, there have been some substitutes made for that pigment. So it's difficult to know what you're working with if you're using cheaper paint. On the contrary to Carmine Lake, we have vermilion red or cinnabar, this stunning bright red. It's such a vivid colored pigment that it works as an orange color as well. Has a very obvious yellow tint to it. Cinnabar, however, as an ore of mercury, is highly toxic, which is why today we use substitutes for the original natural cinnabar that is optically the same as the original. Its flaw is that it doesn't react well with light, as it tends to darken when exposed to it. This is why cinnabar in tubes is often a mixture of other pigments, or an imitation, or it is made out of the other red pigment substitute. The red I'm talking about is cadmium red. Cadmium red is such an important pigment because it has a huge variety of shades, including orange shades, cinnabar shades, bright red, as well as magenta shades. It has amazing characteristics in all techniques except fresco and is very widely used. I would say that cadmium red pigment should be the ultimate red. Of course, there are other red pigments, but they are not as used as these three guys are. So now that we have it, now that we have chosen our additive primary red and our additive primary blue color in paint, we can finally talk about the color wheel and therefore about the subtractive color.
There are two main types of color wheels. There is the traditional triadic color wheel, and then there is the Munsell color wheel. Science, tradition.
I wouldn't call it science and tradition, once again, unless you paint with light, Echo. The first wheel is for light, and the second one is for physical, material, color, or paint. Oh, did you think she's gonna explain anything about those two wheels? Of course she isn't. We've all learned by now that her way of proving something is just giving a statement and hoping we're just gonna believe it.
This is science. This is a social construct.
A social construct? Are you serious?
The only reason that people think that color theory is so complicated is because you're taught the wrong primary colors in fucking grade school!
Again, Echo, nobody thinks color theory is complicated, except for you. There's only people who want to learn and people who don't want to learn, such as yourself. By talking about subtractive colors, you're actually making it more complicated. Additive colors are simple, you just add a color to a color. If it's easier than that, then why didn't you explain to your audience how you subtract color from another color?
It's very important to know the difference between cyan and blue because one of them is a secondary color and one of them is a primary color, depending on whether you're talking about objects or light, but when referring to paint, cyan is a primary color.
This leads me to assume that if cyan is the primary color in object or in paint, blue is a primary color in general. This contradicts absolutely everything that she was saying this entire video. Okay. I just noticed this while editing. Let's move on.
And then there's f***ing purple. Purple is a lie. I mean, it literally doesn't exist. It's a color your brain makes up. That's why purple is so rare in nature, because it's not real.
So then she continues for some reason to talk about how purple doesn't exist based on some studies that have proved that purple is not an actual color in nature, that it's not an actual hue, but it's just an illusion created by our brains. Again, unless you can paint with light, this has absolutely no value to an artist. Do you see purple? Heck yeah! Why should kids learn about purple not existing if they can see it, if they can use it in paint? It's a useless information that can only confuse them, just like it confused you, Echo.
This is a concept that I try to explain to people and then I completely fall on my face because I can't words for garbage. When I'm trying to explain this very complicated concept to my friends, I will usually just say purple is a lie because purple is the closest word in their color vocabulary to what I'm talking about, which is magenta.
Why are you being so mean and talking about them as if they are idiots for not knowing such an irrelevant information when you yourself don't know the basics of basics? She continues talking about purple because we're too stupid and don't have the word magenta in our vocabulary, and gives us interesting information about color theory in light, but still nothing of value to an artist. I'll skip this part for obvious reasons. There's nothing wrong about what she said there. It's just that it has nothing to do with working with paint.
So believe it or not, the color wheel is kind of like a human construct to begin with, because at its most basic form, color is just wavelengths of light. And there's a small section of wavelengths that we can perceive with the naked eye. That is the visible spectrum. The visible spectrum of light starts with these long wavelengths in the infrared and then get to tighter wavelengths in the ultraviolet. Color is a spectrum, not a wheel. It's a line, not a circle.
Sure, but are you going to address that in material painting red and green don't make yellow? Why are you telling this to us? I mean, I have nothing against explaining both color theories, but you're taking this one and just applying it to art and then pretending everyone around you is an idiot for not knowing about color theory in light, even though all they want is just to paint.
It's all just a bunch of freaking waves. Science. What that means is that you can actually assign a number to every color in the visible spectrum. As you may or may not know, your eyeballs have 3 cones. 3 color receptors that are tuned to specific parts on the visible spectrum. Red, blue, and green. RGB, like a computer screen. This is also why televisions and older computer monitors are made with red, blue, and green pixels. It's eyeball tricks. So let's just say you're walking down the street and you see a lemon tree and you're like, oh my, those lemons are yellow. You don't have any yellow receptors in your eye, so what's going on? The yellow light that lemon is shining off into your eyes is causing some of your red cones to fire and some of your green cones to fire. Since both of those cones are firing, your brain thinks it must be something between them. It's yellow. If you're looking at this on an older computer model and you get really close, you'll see that all of the pixels in this yellow are just red and green. There's no yellow light coming off of your computer right now, but your eyes think it's yellow because both of your red and green cones are firing.
See, this information could actually be useful to an artist, but she won't tell you why, of course. You probably heard about pointillism. It is a specific way of painting that Impressionists used in order to make these beautiful atmosphere in painting. They would use blue dots and yellow dots in order to make your eye believe it's green. She could have done an experiment here and made red dots and green dots next to each other in a painting in order to see if it's actually true and if it can be used in art. But of course she didn't. Oh, what's that? You're asking me if I'm going to do that? I might at the end of the video.
I feel like the triadic color wheel is the imperial system of color. It's not based in science, it's not based in fact or reason. Why are there 12 inches in a foot? Why are there 3 feet in a yard? Who knows? That's the way it's always been. The only reason that we use it is because we're used to it, because we're comfortable with it, because everything in the world around us is catered to this system. Even if it's not based in science and the science is readily available, we're comfortable with the idea that blue and yellow make green, that Roy G. Biv means something, and that the sky is blue.
Alrighty, so color wheels. Let's see what this social construct circle has to offer and what information it gives us. But most importantly, why is it not a line if colors are just waves in their original form? Color wheel exists so it can give us information about primary, secondary, tertiary colors, etc., as well as complementary colors. I wonder why she didn't speak about complementary colors. That's like the second most important thing to know in color theory other than primary and secondary colors. But oh well. So when you look at the color wheel, you'll notice this little triangle that yellow, red, and blue make. These are primary colors. Between each pair of these colors, you will find three other colors. The middle one of the three is a secondary color and the other two are tertiary. Secondary colors are made by using two full colors or two primary colors in the same amount. Tertiary colors are used by adding half of one primary color to a full amount of another primary color. Therefore, the color wheel gives us information about primary, secondary, and tertiary colors in a very quick and easy way to remember. Did it have to be a wheel though to give us this information? I mean, it's best if it's a wheel, but I guess it could have been done in a line as well if a color repeated in the beginning and in the end. But that's not all that a wheel tells us. The opposite colors on the wheel are complementary colors. This is a piece of information that a simple line couldn't have given us without having some special sign or something, and this is why we need a wheel. So what are complementary colors? These are the colors that are completely opposite from each other, which means that one color in a pair has all the characteristics that the other color doesn't have, and vice versa. So if blue is complementary to orange, that is because orange consists of yellow and red, but not of blue, while blue consists of blue and not of yellow and red. Why is this important? Complementary colors as opposites of each other neutralize each other. If you mix two complementary colors, you will get black or gray. This is a fantastic characteristic of color, which we use in order to subtract color from another color. So how does that work? Take cyan and magenta for example. If you mix a full saturation of magenta with a full saturation of cyan, you will get an imitation of ultramarine. How does this happen? Cyan consists of 1/3 of yellow and 2/3 of blue. Magenta consists of 2/3 of red and 1/3 of blue. Note that both colors consist of blue. When you mix these two colors, you get a greater saturation of blue than each of the two colors had in the beginning. But what happens with red and yellow? We know that red is complementary to green, and green consists of yellow and blue. The amount of red we have in magenta is going to neutralize some of that blue and all of that yellow from cyan. And we'll be left in the end with about 3/4 of blue and 1/4 of leftovers. The leftovers will consist of some red and some muddy gray color we got from neutralizing the green. So we're left with an imitation of the blue color that magenta and cyan already had in them. This imitation, however, can never be as saturated as the original blue color we used in the beginning. Let's say it's ultramarine, because it will always have those leftovers after subtracting or neutralizing a color that is that gray color. Although you can make an imitation of the blue while mixing cyan and magenta, it will always be slightly desaturated because it has gray in it, as well as some leftovers of the color used for neutralizing. Even if you forgive them that, and if you say, well, it can still somewhat work, the fact is that you can subtract color from other tertiary colors as well. It didn't even have to be cyan and magenta. Therefore, magenta and cyan can never be primary colors in art. I'll make sure to demonstrate that at the end of the video as well. Probably. Even in the color theory, when it comes to light, cyan, magenta, and yellow are not all primary colors until you add black to them. This doesn't apply in art at all because black is basically a mixture of all colors and is often advised not to be used in painting because it desaturates everything. What could you possibly need black for? Light just works different from the material paint, and what applies to light won't necessarily apply to painting and vice versa. The problem with this person is not the fact that she didn't take her time to do the most basic research on color theory to check if color theory and light can actually apply to art. It's not even a problem that she didn't even try to demonstrate that you can't get magenta and cyan using blue, red, and yellow. The problem is her attitude. She just managed to insult everyone in 10 minutes, assuming our vocabulary is so weak that she has to call magenta purple in order for us to understand her, assuming we don't see the difference between cyan and another shade of blue. This person is annoying on a whole other level. I hope you're listening, Echo. I just want you to know that people know about cyan and magenta and about many, many, many other colors that you may not know about. And that people are not idiots even if they say sky blue or purple, because these are also names used correctly for these shades, and there is no basis upon which one name is more important than another. What's important is that we know how to mix color in order to get the results we want, and that's that. Even learning about pigments is not necessary in order for you to paint. You can always just buy an expensive set of paint and know that all of the pigments used in there are authentic and react well with each other for the wanted technique without any knowledge on the matter. This video has no ill intent at all. I saw Jazz's video on Cyan and Magenta, and although Jazz's intention was to make a fun video rather than really get into the matter, it's absolutely useless, including a few smaller creators' videos. They're all pretty much useless. Since there are no videos debunking this confusion, I decided to make this video and try to clear the air. I don't know if anyone's going to see this, but if you do, let me know what you think. If you like this, you might as well subscribe. It will motivate me to make more for sure. Also, I know that I currently have no influence on anyone, but in case you watch this and decide to go hate on Echo, please don't. It's just color. I'm sure she had no ill intent either. She just got caught up in thinking she knows something that other people don't know, and I guess this video slightly fed her ego. Let her have that. Share this video instead to make more people see it. Bye! On to the demonstrations.
Angry. Angry!
I actually started making this video a long time ago, and I'm so tired of making it. I just want to post it. I mean, I even gave up on posting it so many times. I don't even know if anyone's gonna watch it. I don't even know if anyone's gonna care. So I'm not gonna do the demonstrations right now. But if it happens that people actually see this and that people actually want to see my demonstrations, I'll be more than willing to actually do it in another video. Now that I have watched it a million times while editing the video, I'm like, I probably shouldn't have gone so much into detail, but it's just I haven't seen these information being spread around at all. It's just people speaking nonsense, and I just wanted to debunk some of the things, and Echo's video was just very suitable for that. So yeah, there's that. I don't know, let me know if you care about doing the demonstrations, because if I do the demonstrations, I'm gonna do it very thoroughly. So bye.